Hi guys, this is a little introductory video for our recipe for pesto sauce. I feel very lucky to be here because where I am is at the Serre di Pra. Serre di Pra is where the best basil, or the best Italian basil in the world gets made. So there are many different varieties of basil that get made all over the world. I personally think, for what I know, that basil is actually a native plant of India. But I've worked myself with Thai basil at times, with purple basil at times as well. It's just various different varieties. But obviously here we're making a recipe for an Italian sauce, a pesto sauce. So we're gonna use Italian basil. And the best Italian basil gets made right here in Pra. So the reason why the basil is so good here in Pra is for many different reasons. The moisture in the air obviously is a key factor that helps the plant grow in just a perfect way. And it's also a little mixture of winds that you get from the sea, which is right on that side, and from the mountains, which are just on the left over here. As well as the wind, or this mixture of wind and the moisture, it's also a question of heat. So here we're on a hill. You can't see it in this video, but we're on a hill, and it's almost similar to how wine gets made. The plant needs a lot of sunshine. So sunshine, moisture and wind is the perfect recipe for the perfect basil. And then I'm gonna show you how to make the most beautiful pesto recipe for a very authentic and traditional sauce. Hello again guys, we've just come back from the basil farm I've shown you, and I'm going to show you now how to make pesto with their basil. So the ingredients we're going to use today to make our pesto will be the traditional ones. So we've got fresh basil from the farms here in Genova. We've also got some fresh pine nuts, Pecorino Romano cheese. We've got some garlic and some extra virgin olive oil. And also what we're gonna use as an ingredient today is, normally we would use ice. Some people use different types of acids like citric acid or ascorbic acid, but that's not very traditional. There is, although, one ingredient which in this case will be ice cold water, but ice would do just as fine. That is a key component to making a beautiful pesto. The way this agent acts onto our pesto is that it lowers down the temperature of the basil and of the ingredients as we mix them through. So we're blitzing this. I'm going to show you the traditional way with this pesto and mortar, but there is friction in between the ingredients, and that friction can cause the basil to oxidize, and once it oxidizes it becomes really dark in color. So your end product is not going to be of a bright, nice green as it's supposed to. So with this ingredient, hopefully the temperature will cool down. Now I'm going to tell you, in the traditional way, in the old way, they probably didn't use either ice or ice cold water, but they used another ingredient which you can see here on my table, and that's marble. So marble is always really cold. It just holds that cold temperature. So as the ingredients friction, as we're bashing them through, they will touch the sides of the marble mortar, and that way they're going to keep cool and the basil won't oxidize. So now I'm going to show you two different methods. I'm going to show you the very old-fashioned traditional way with the pesto and mortar, just only a little bit so you can see how you know, it used to get done. So in some places still get done, but not quite so much, because most people would rather use the modern way, which is with a food processor or mixer. The first thing we're going to do is we're gonna put just a little touch of our garlic. I'm only making a little bit of pesto the old-fashioned way, and I'm gonna make the rest into my food processor. So we're gonna put a tiny bit of garlic into our mortar and a few leaves of basil, yeah. Also, just a very small touch of water. I'm just a little bit scared that it may oxidize, so I'm gonna put that water in, yeah, or ice if that's what you like. And now what I'm doing with my pestello And this is, you know, this is why pesto is called this way. Because with the pistello, you're pesting it. And pesting it means bashing it. So this is, you know, may have been translated into bashed, you know, if we want to play with the words. So I'm just gonna bash my basil leaves through with my garlic, and that's gonna be the initial stage of our pesto, yeah? So I'm bashing these through. The basil leaves are releasing the water, yeah? So starting to release its water, and I'm just smashing through my leaves. I'm gonna start adding my pine nuts or pine kernels, if you know them that way. I'm gonna bash them through as well. Okay, so I've bashed through my basil leaves with a touch of water and some pine nuts. I'm starting to get my pesto sauce nearly ready. What I'm gonna do now is, oh, actually, I'm gonna add a few more leaves. Yeah, a few more leaves. Bash these through. Swift the pistello around as well. Try and catch all those sides. And I can see here that color staying quite bright, yeah? So this shows that the marble, it's doing what it's meant to. I'm gonna add a few drops of extra virgin olive oil, a bit of my Pecorino cheese. Okay, so again, with the same exact movement, I'm just bashing this through. Go and scrape sides. If you have this pesto and mortar at home, may as well try it. It's actually quite, you know, quite nice, quite good. It doesn't take too long either to make, so, you know, if you want to do a bit of a show for your guests or whatever, make pesto fresh right in front of their eyes, maybe a nice thing to do. I'm just going to show you now that this pesto seems like it's got the perfect texture. So just take a look here. Yeah, you can see it's quite dense, yeah? Pecorino cheese is absorbing the excess water from the basil. It's making the sauce a little denser. The olive oil is acting as our fat, and it's working to make our sauce nicely emulsified. And the pine nuts too are, you know, they've got a bit of both. You know, they add their fat content to our sauce, but they also act as a densing agent, the thickening agent, yeah? So I'd say, you know, this is pretty much, you know, good enough. It's exactly what we want, yeah? As I've said to you before, Pecorino cheese, it's really quite salty. So do be careful when you use it to taste and not to add too much salt to whichever sauce or pasta dish you're making. So I'm just gonna have a little taste. I can taste some savory, but it's not quite right, so I will add just a tiny pinch of salt. And now mix that through. And that's about ready. That's about done. So this is our traditional way recipe for pesto, yeah, with the pesto and mortar. It is quite hard to properly break down all your basil leaves, so it's gonna have a more sort of rustic look to it. Now you can see some strains of leaves going through the sauce. That's, you know, it's okay. As I said, this is the way it was made, but I'm gonna show you now the more modern way, and I'm gonna show you how the texture changes and the appearance changes as well. So visually, it's just gonna have a completely different impact. Let's go ahead and see the modern way. Okay, so now I'm gonna show you the modern way of making pesto. Yeah, I'm just using a simple food processor here. You can use any sort of mixer. You can use a stick blender as well if you want, but just be a little more careful with the stick blender, yeah, because you can't really see much what's going on underneath. Has your blitzing stuff, and so if your basil starts going, you know, starts turning black, you may not be able to see it, and it might be a little bit too difficult to sort of, you know, get it back to a good color. So as I said, use it if you want, but just make sure you blitz a little bit, have a look, blitz a little bit, have a look, you know, and that's that. So the process is going to be exactly the same. There is a small strain going inside the clove of garlic, which here in Italy we call anima, which literally translates into soul. If you want to make pesto for someone that struggles to digest raw garlic, then take that soul out. And you know, if you really want, you can blanch the garlic as well. Or you can make pesto without garlic if you really, really have to. Just, you know, it is a key ingredient. It's what sort of makes that flavor of the sauce finally a bit more balanced. It's that spicy kick that really helps sort of, you know, make pesto what it's meant to be. Following that, I'm gonna put my garlic inside with just a little touch of extra virgin olive oil, and I'm gonna start blitzing that. Yeah, there's not much going through. Okay, once that's done, I'm gonna add my basil leaves. You can decide to put them all together or little by little. Today I'm gonna put them all together, yeah, because I haven't got too many. If you're making, you know, a full jar of pesto, then you probably want to put some through, you know, fill it up, blitz it, it's gonna go down, and then keep adding, yeah. Every time you add basil to your food processor, make sure that you add a tiny cube of ice, or as I'm gonna use today, some fresh cold water, yeah. So I've got my leaves inside. I'm gonna add just a small touch, yeah. You don't wanna put too much in. If you put too much water or too much ice, because eventually that's, you know, it's gonna melt and it's gonna become water, it's gonna make your sauce far too watery, and you don't want that. I've got my garlic inside here, I've got my basil leaves inside here, I've got my touch of ice cold water. I'm gonna start blitzing this. Go. If you see it struggles a bit, then just go in with your spatula and just mix it through, yeah? So here we go, and again. Okay, it's starting to catch it little by little. The more basil leaves you use, the easier it's gonna be for your food processor to blitz them. So I would say that's about fine, and we're ready to go in with our pine nuts. The pine nuts will give that nutty flavor, that extra density in the texture. But also what they do is, as you can see with their color, they're gonna make that pesto a little whiter, yeah? So with the green color, a little, you know, a little brighter. Okay, now we're gonna add a bit of extra virgin olive oil. Okay. Okay, so as you can see, once I've added a bit of liquid, it managed to blitz a little better, yeah? It's starting to become a sauce, really, yeah, which is fantastic. What I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna add my Pecorino cheese. And blitz again. Now we're gonna add a little touch of salt, because we've seen that it needs it. Our Pecorino cheese is salty, but not that salty, you know? So a little pinch of salt is really gonna make this sauce absolutely beautiful. So I'm adding a bit more Pecorino cheese because I just want it to be a little denser, yeah? Okay, so in terms of thickness, I say we're quite right. Let's check in terms of taste. Could do with just a pinch more salt. At this stage, I can still see a few pine nuts going through. That's quite fine. Some people here in Genoa would rather have it this way, you know, they want to see some of the ingredients going through. They want the pesto to have a bit of a crunch to it. In very modern restaurants, I'd say, here in the region of Liguria anyway, in Michelin-star restaurants, pesto tends to be as like a proper smooth paste. And depending on how you're gonna use it and in which way you're gonna use it, whether your dish, your final end dish is gonna, you know, is gonna want to be more rustic or more modern, up to you to decide how much more you wanna blitz it or how much, you know, how much more rustic you wanna keep it. It's your decision. I'm gonna give you a recipe that will absolutely work 100%. I'm showing you a few different methods on how to make it, but you know, you've got the freedom to twist the recipe to your liking. Okay, so now that I've got my two different final products, I'm just gonna show you on this plate how they look, yeah? So first I'm gonna show you some of my rustic, traditional, old-fashioned pesto, yeah? As you can see here, it's quite dense, it's quite thick. You can still see some basil leaves. Whereas from my food processor, I've kept this quite rustic as well, yeah? I didn't want to have it like too smooth. I've got my modern style pesto, yeah? One's got the leaves that are still going through it, and the other one is more sort of smooth, yeah? You can't see any basil leaves, but you can just see a few bits and bobs, pine kernels and your cheese. The green color is sort of smooth and even all around. So now what we're gonna do is I'm gonna have a little taste of the two, just on a little bit of bread. Here in Genoa we have it with focaccia, but bread is just as fine. You can eat this with pasta. Trofie pasta would be fantastic pasta to have it with. Another way, there's a very traditional way here in Genoa, is to have it with gnocchi, so potato pasta. And I'm gonna show you a recipe on how to make a fantastic gnocchi al pesto. Okay, so with a special thanks to the Famiglia Bruzzone and Ferrari family for hosting us into their basil farms. This is our recipe for pesto from Italy. Buon appetito!